First things first, the major news. He previously said that he was going to play in the World Baseball Classic and be the captain for Team Puerto Rico, but Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor no longer going to participate in the 2026 World Baseball Classic. Again, the World Baseball Classic is like the Olympics of baseball. Um, Various major leaguers from the United States, Japan, Venezuela, Panama. There's an Italian team, Israel, um, a bunch of places, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, as we mentioned, all have teams. They play this round robin style tournament. The last tournament was in 2023, so it's every 3 years. The Mets have quite a few players in the World Baseball Classic confirmed. Mark Vientos will be playing for Nicaragua. Nolan McLean and Clay Holmes both will be pitching for Team USA. And Francisco Lindor was supposed to participate in the World Baseball Classic as the captain of the Puerto Rican national team. That, of course, no longer happening. And I covered it on the channel how I felt when Lindor announced last season that he was going to play for Team Puerto Rico in 2026. But before we get into that, um, let's go over why exactly Francisco Lindor will not be participating in the 2026 World Baseball Classic. So apparently, Francisco Lindor earlier in the offseason had a procedure to clean up his elbow. So he had spurs in his elbow, and he basically got a surgery to clean that up. And this is breaking now. It was not reported when it happened, but this is a statement that the Major League Baseball Players Association put out on behalf of Francisco Lindor. So basically, the union came out and said this, and I quote, "Due to the cleanup procedure that Francisco Lindor had on his right elbow earlier this offseason, he will not be participating for Team Puerto Rico in the 2026 World Baseball Classic. Francisco is obviously disappointed that he will be unable to participate. However, because of WBC, World Baseball Classic, insurance constraints, he is ineligible to play in WBC games. He will participate fully in all spring training activities." Again, this comes as a major blow to Team Puerto Rico. Lindor, of course, one of the best shortstops in all of Major League Baseball right now. And Team Puerto Rico is going to miss him. In the 2023 World Baseball Classic, Lindor had an average of 450 with 5 RBIs, got his team, which was Puerto Rico, into the quarterfinals where they were eliminated by Mexico. And of course, Lindor was part of that great game, Puerto Rico versus Dominican Republic, where Puerto Rico won the game, the same game that Edwin Diaz ironically got hurt in. During a celebration, he broke his femur, which leads me to my next point. And I said this months ago, you could go backtrack on the channel, but it was there that I understand that these guys want to play for their country. I wholeheartedly understand that and get that. Who wouldn't want to represent their country and play amongst and for their countrymen for sports supremacy? I understand that. I understand why Nolan McLean and Clay Holmes want to play for Team USA. I understand why Mark Vientos wants to play for Nicaragua. I get all of that. However, I wholeheartedly believe that some of these guys, especially the guys who are extremely important to their major league ball clubs, should not participate in the World Baseball Classic. Now, I know this may be an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys why. A lot of these guys risk injury in doing this. Again, we saw it in 2023, the World Baseball Classic, where Edwin Diaz had to be wheelchaired off the field. Didn't play the entire season. And we saw how that affected the Mets. It cost Buck Showalter his job and so on and so forth. But then there's also the issue of guys swinging themselves out. Now, you want to take a look at Lindor, and I mentioned earlier in the 2023 World Baseball Classic, the man hit 450, had 5 RBI, sorry. If we look at the stats that Lindor had in 2023, so Lindor in 23 had a batting average of 254, which the following year in 2024 he hit 273. Last year he hit 267. He had 31 home runs. Okay, that's not bad. 98 RBI. And he had a 30-30 season. 31 stolen bases. Okay. Decent season by Francisco. So some can argue that he ramped up. Yeah, some people could argue he ramped himself up. But we've seen cases where guys played in the WBC and for one reason or another had not as successful seasons. And again, the argument is these guys. Now, the WBC, for those of you who don't know, takes place while spring training is going on. Now, granted, some of these guys have individual workouts in the off season. They hit the batting cages, but you're asking guys who have not played in a competitive environment since, I don't know, if your team doesn't make the playoffs, you ask them to play competitive games, really competitive games that count in a tournament. Guys who haven't played since the end of September, if they don't make the playoffs, the close to November, if their team got to the World Series, no competitive game situations. December, January, most of February, and then the last weekend in February to March, you start the ramp up. You start warming up for the season coming up. So you have a lot of guys entering big game situations cold. Like I said, these guys may be playing catch in for pitchers. They may be playing catch in the off season, but they're not throwing 85, 90, 95, 100. Not at all. You really thought in 2023, right before the WBC started, that Edwin Diaz was flame throwing 104 miles per hour in his backyard playing catch? No. Or you got guys, yeah, they'll go to the batting cages in Florida in December and January or Arizona, wherever the team complex is, whether you're in the Grapefruit League or the Cactus League. More than likely, before February, nobody's at the team facility. And you have these guys, they're being pitched to by one of those machines. They're not facing, I mean, yeah, you could program it to go to 90, 95, but just to stay warm or warm up, they're not hitting full speed pitches or like 104 miles per hour from the arm of a Aroldis Chapman. No. If the guys are important to the dynamic of the team like Lindor is to the Mets, do not play in the World Baseball Classic because number one, God forbid you get an injury like Edwin Diaz, you're going to lose a year off your career or significant time from the season. You might miss the season. That's number one. Number two, you look at some of these guys, and like I said, they may outperform themselves. It didn't happen to Lindor in 23, but another Met. Well, he's not a Met anymore, but a friend of the show, Pete Alonso, former Met, who I miss very much to this day. He played in the WBC for Team USA in 2023. He had a good season too that year. 46 home runs, 118 RBIs. Batting average was 217, so that was his career low that year. So while he did mash and had 46 and 118, Pete, 217 average. You look at another ex-Met who played in the WBC in 2023. Jeff McNeil played in the World Baseball Classic in 2023. And McNeil, who won the batting title in the NL in 2022, we saw him in 23. That's when he first started to decline. Went from hitting 326 the previous year to 270. Granted, 270 is still a heck of a season, but you know, I can't fathom that you would want to like I said, you want to risk these guys getting hurt I can't. It's like I said, some guys swing themselves out. High leverage situations, super ultra competitive situations. And for argument's sake, let's go to the Google machine here. The World Baseball Classic is going to start pool play, which is the first round, starts March 5th. Spring training, actual competitive games start February 21st. The Mets open up their spring training schedule against the Marlins Saturday, February 21st. So you're asking guys to now step away from their team where they can, ramp to get them warmed up, and you ask them to ramp up to go from 0 to 100 within the span of about a week and some change. Matter of fact, the World Baseball Classic starts 13 days after camp breaks. So you're asking guys to leave their teams behind, leave the preparation for the MLB season behind, to go play for their country. Now, mind you, they get paid during spring training when they're playing MLB games. And you want these guys to go ahead and play in games they're not getting paid for. It's just for the pride of their country, the love of the game, if you will. And to leave, and technically, yes, baseball is a game, but at the same time, this is their job, this is their career. To put that on hold, to go play for free. And, if the WBC did not happen during baseball season or even spring training, I have no issue with it. You want the WBC to happen? Do it in December. Do it in January. In warm weather places. There are plenty of places that this tournament could take place stateside. I know there's sites all over the world that these teams play in, but these games could occur in Tropicana Field has been rebuilt. The Tampa Bay Rays, I was about to say Devil Rays, sorry. The Tampa Bay Rays have a home again. They play in a dome. It's climate controlled. You could have games there. Lone Depot Park in Miami has a roof, closed the roof, climate control, and you've got a stadium there. Who else has a roof? Rogers Center in Toronto, climate control with a roof. Arizona, the Diamondbacks, Chase Field, climate controlled with a roof. Like, I understand that you want baseball, you want baseball during spring training and whatever, but there are other alternatives other than, well, I mean, they are going to have pool play in Miami, but there are places that you could have baseball in the United States during the winter months, the Decembers, the Januaries. If we're looking at the World Baseball Classic here, pool play will be in the cities of San Juan, Puerto Rico, Houston, Texas, and Miami, Florida, and Japan in the Tokyo Dome. So Miami, Houston, San Juan, and Tokyo will be the 4 host cities. Puerto Rico, warm. Houston, Daikin Park, it has a roof, climate controlled. Again, we talked about the Marlins Park. They're probably going to play in Hiram Bithorn Stadium in San Juan, where the Montreal Expos played some of their games in the regular season. And Tokyo is in a dome, so hey, there you go, on those NPB fields. But back to my original point. If this tournament was held November, December, January, cool. Preferably in November, because again, your team doesn't make the playoffs in MLB. The latest you're done playing, late September. Your team makes the World Series, you're done end of October, close to November. Have the tournament in November so guys are still somewhat warmed up, rather than giving them a long rest period and then expecting them to go compete at the highest level when the most they've done in the last couple of months is just hit the batting cages. They haven't faced live pitching, or you want a guy who's throwing maybe half of what he can throw, 50, 60, 70, and now you want him to throw 100 miles an hour pitch. That's a recipe to get hurt. And I hope to God, with the way that David Stearns, and like I said, I I'm cooling off on the David Stearns bashing for now, with the last couple of moves he's made in the last week. But with the way that man has gone about pitching, it would be a great shame, especially the way that this Mets rotation is currently projected to be, if we lost not one but two pitchers in our rotation. Clay Holmes, and I don't even know why Clay Holmes is participating in this tournament, because I personally feel, I mean, it's never confirmed. Nobody's publicly came out and said it, but I feel that Clay Holmes, who, mind you, was a closer in 2024, transitioned to a starter in 2025, and I think that he suffered from arm fatigue as the season wore on last season. And you can, if you, I'm not going to rehash it, but there are old videos on the channel on YouTube. You could go watch it. I've talked about it. But I personally believe that Clay Holmes, who, again, I believe suffered from arm fatigue, should not be in this tournament. Let him rest. Let him ramp up spring training. You're going to take a guy who was used to throwing one inning every couple of days, or one inning on an as-needed basis every few days, and you converted him to a starter where he had to throw 90 to 100 pitches once every 5 days in the regular season, and he fell off in the second half. That's a guy you should let rest, because now think about it. What do a lot of these teams say? Oh, he's on a pitch count. He's on a pitch count. So let's say they only want Clay Holmes to throw X amount of innings this year. The Mets have a goal for Clay Holmes. We don't want him to go X amount of innings. Okay, he has to pitch in spring training somewhat, and now he's going to add on to the arm in the World Baseball Classic in games that don't mean anything for anybody other than for one country to say, "Ha, we're the best country in baseball." So that's what you want to do. Just for one country to say, "Yeah, we're the best team in the last 3 years. We're the best country in the last 3 years." I love baseball more than anybody. But at the same time, what we have to protect the players from themselves, in my opinion. Like I said, this is a guy, Clay Holmes. He suffered from arm fatigue last year. Let him rest. Now who knows? And I understand that the World Baseball Classic has rules that a pitcher cannot throw more than a certain amount of pitches in a game. I get that. But you're going to add that on to his workload for the season, for the year? Nolan McLean, young phenom. We saw what he could do last season. He was major league poised and ready. But at the same time, we don't know if he's going to be suffering from the sophomore slump this year. Sophomore slump's a real thing. Now that teams have had a chance to see him, they have tape on him. There's film at the major league level. And he's going to be in his first real major league season this year. It's not going to start in the minors. Not going to wait until the end of July before he throws a major league pitch. No. Nolan McLean is projected to be on the opening day pitching rotation, or the opening day roster, I should say, to start the season. But back to Frankie Lindor. It seems like this is more of a, we're going to protect ourselves. The WBC is going to protect, because this is an insurance issue, they said. I guess because he just had surgery, they're going to back off and let him convalesce so that he doesn't miss spring training with the big league club that he's on, which is the right thing to do. But if you ask me, I do not believe that key figures, like if you want a guy like if you want Ronnie Mauricio to go play in the World Baseball Classic, all well and good, because Mauricio, you lose him, and not to say that one person is not worth anything, but you lose him is not a detriment to the team. You lose Lindor, you lose McLean, you lose Holmes, that hurts. So that's my opinion on that. I'm glad that, for insurance purposes. So I'm pretty sure it was against his will, because if it was up to Francisco, he probably would play in the tournament. But I think so. My issue is, if this tournament, just so I make sense so nobody misunderstands, if the tournament was held right after the World Series concluded, okay, fine, I'm good. December, okay, fine, I'm good. Even heck, even January. But don't stop these guys from warming up after their bodies have rested for the better part of 5 months. So that's that. If this tournament was in November, okay, no problem. Because their priority should be the team that they play for in the majors. Or if you're going to keep the WBC around this time of year, let it be an amateur tournament. I get it. If they went the Cuban route, and I call it the Cuban route because in Cuba, there's no professional sports. Everybody who plays is an amateur, except in the WBC where they made exceptions that MLB players can play for their country, except for Randy Arozarena, who claimed the Mexican nationality, but that's a different topic for a different show for a different day. But if this was full of minor league talent or, college players or Dominican Winter League ball players, most of them, I wouldn't have an issue. But the biggest, and I understand that the WBC and MLB, they want the big names of the sport to play in this tournament so that people can watch it so they can get ratings. But how many WBC rosters of the smaller countries do you see? Czech Republic, Israel, Cuba. If you look at the 23 WBC, the Czech Republic team was made up of mostly school teachers and firefighters in that country. And they got out of the first round. How many Aussies are going to play for Team Australia? So, the United Kingdom, England had a team, and the only notable name on that team was Harry Ford, who was a Mariners prospect at the time. So, I would change WBC. If you're going to keep it this time of year, if it was up to me, amateur players, minor league players only, nobody with major league experience. You keep it this time of year, you don't want to do that. Minor leaguers to go play. I would not. If I am a front office executive on a major league team, I'm not allowing any of my stars to play. That's just that.